Hello everyone. Today we're going to talk about 3 beginner mistakes that keep you under 1000 elo. If you want to get a higher elo than 1000, you should definitely watch this video. So let's start with mistake number 1. Look at the screen. You see black has developed the pieces and taken control of the center, but white has just made simple moves, just pushing a pawn 1 square forward. Which position would you prefer to play? Is it white or is it black? You should say black, because he has his pieces out which are ready to attack with maybe a pawn break. He will bring his king to safety, and white hasn't really done anything. He doesn't have a plan. So mistake number 1 is moving without a plan. So you should have a plan. Black's plan is develop the pieces. White's plan is just making a move, not really doing anything. What is the problem with this? It is that you will fall behind in development, your pieces aren't coordinated, and suddenly your opponent has the center, and you don't. So that's what we see. Our opponent has the center, his pieces are coordinated, the bishops look at your territory, the knights are ready to jump in at any given moment, and he takes control of the most important squares of the chessboard, the 4 squares in the center. White hasn't developed any pieces, so when there comes an attack, he's not ready to bring his king to safety or have his pieces help protect the position. How can we fix this? You should ask yourself, what does this do move for me? So if you choose about doing this pawn, pushing this pawn, you should see it protects the square, but is that really necessary? Not really. So instead you should maybe make a move like developing the knight. So your knight attacks the black center. Also, you can afterwards develop the bishop and then bring your king to safety by castling. So that's mistake number 1. We can see that black did do this. First, he takes control of the center, then he develops the knights to have even more control of important squares, and then he develops the bishops. That's how you should play. Take control of the center, develop your knights, and then develop your bishops, not just push a pawn 1 square forward. Let's go to mistake number 2. First, the game goes further. Now we see that white has a plan, he moves his pieces with purpose, brings his king to safety. Black also, he castles, brings the queen up, and now this move is played. Queen to b3. And now I ask you, what would you play in this position? And that's mistake number 2. If you just said something like bringing the rook to the center, that's right, you're moving your pieces with a plan, you're making them active. But you also have to look at the things your opponent sees. So the queen sees this, but that is just protected. But this pawn, the queen can just take for free. And now it's attacking the knight, he won a pawn. So now you have to defend your knight with another waiting move like queen e2, and you don't really get anything from this. So that's why you should always look at what your opponent is doing. So this is defended, and then you look. But this pawn isn't defended. So then you might say, alright, then I will push the pawn, because now he can't take anymore because it's protected. And now let's say the queen moves here. What would you play in this position? You should see that the queen doesn't attack this pawn anymore, but what does it attack? You're right, it attacks the knight, so you should defend your knight with something like the queen moving up. And now white plays a move like developing the knight, and you think, alright, I wanna reroute my knight. So now white just makes another developing move like rook e1, and now you think, let me attack the knight. But can you see what's wrong about this move? I'll give you a few seconds. You're right, the bishop is just free. because the queen attacked bishop. So the problem is moving your pieces to a square that's undefended, because if the knight was still there, you could play it because the knight would defend the bishop, but the knight went away. But how can you fix this? Before every move, you should do a blunder check. You should ask, if I play this move, what can my opponent take? And you should just take 3 seconds to double check everything. So after this move, you see the queen is attacking this one, that's defended, the knight's attacking this one, that's defended, but my bishop isn't defended. So hanging pieces, very important, because you will lose a lot of games by just giving your opponent free material. You will also win a lot of games by this, but if you want to get 1000 elo, you really should stop hanging your pieces. And then we will go to mistake number 3, forgetting king safety, because that's how you win or lose the game, with your king getting checkmated. So let's see game. Now they are moving with a plan, grabbing the center, but black also says, no, I also want a piece of the center. You just defend your center with developing a bishop, you attack the knight, you play this move to solidify the center, and then you develop the knight, they develop the bishop, and now you play an aggressive move. You play queen to h5. And you have a trick with this, because if black just thinks, alright, let's castle to safety, he will get checkmated in one move. So this is what you should look for if you castle your king or your king stays in the center, because we could also have an example with a knight landing on this square and that this would be a checkmate. But now the checkmate is the trap that you can castle because you will get checkmated. So before you castle, you should take a second and think, if I castle, what will my opponent do? They attack this pawn twice. But we can see, with moving a plan, you can also look at your opponent's plan. What's your opponent's plan? This is protected, this is protected. But if you castle, this will be protected once and attacked twice. So it will be checkmate. So you should see the threat and push the pawn. And now the queen maybe goes here, but if you castle now, it's not a checkmate anymore. But there are still attacking chances with the knight and the queen and the other knight and the bishop coming. So this maybe it isn't a good move to castle here. Maybe you should just develop the knight, wait, because there are no threats now. And then after white develops, you develop the castles, you develop the bishop, and they play the rook to the center, you play the queen up, and maybe you want to play long castle here. Long castle, because there your king is safe. You should always look to have your king safe. But let's look at another example. For example, we play the queen out, and you don't castle. So you think, I just develop my knight, but then this knight comes, I want to develop my bishop, the knight jumps in, I develop my bishop, and hoppa, you got checkmated. With the same queen, but now with a knight. Because you waited too long in the center. So that's also something you should not do. So maybe in this position, when they go, you can long castle, but in this position where you jump your knight, you should either, it's just a free knight actually, because you should look for hanging pieces, but also move like this, kicking the queen away, and then it's also a free knight. So that's what you should really look for. So these are the 3 mistakes: forgetting king safety, hanging your pieces, and moving without a plan. If you start a game and let's go to the start of a game, you move with a plan, controlling the center, developing the knights, developing the bishops, and after that you stop hanging your pieces. So something like this, you see that your bishop is hanging, so you just defend the bishop. You donate your pieces, you move with a plan, and if you know bring your king to safety fast, it will be safe, because there's nothing that can attack your king over here. So these are the 3 mistakes. Please stop making them, and that's how you will hit 1000 elo. So thank you all for watching. Have a good day. Goodbye.